You are now somewhere in the skies with your host, Ryan Spray.
Something I want to talk with you today about is something I've not really discussed before, but I've just popped back into my consciousness in the last couple of weeks. And these are two experiences of UFOs, unidentified flying objects, or as the modern term is called, unidentified aerial phenomena. I'm fascinated by UFOs. I don't speculate. I don't go on about, are they little green men from outer space? You don't know, that's why they're unidentified, but all I can say is what I saw and what I can relate to. My two UFO experiences. Okay. So the first experience was back in 2008. We did a radio show down in Portsmouth with Key FM, I think it was on Key FM, called Tuning In, which was presented by Paul Allen, great guy. He sort of led the show, it was his show. We had medium Paul Sissel, and I came on as a paranormal advisor, investigator, whatever. And Norrie Miles was also there as well, my good friend Norrie. Now, on this particular day, we were about to interview Nick Pope, formerly of the Ministry of Defence, who's big into researching UFO sightings. So it seemed a bit ironic that I happened to be outside having a cigarette when I smoked, and I just happened to be casually looking. Now, bear in mind, it's about sort of 8 o'clock in the evening, and I looked up in the sky just casually and saw 5 very high-speed blue lights, like going really fast across the skyline. And as they sort of went overhead of me, they sort of split and went apart. It's very hard to get sort of depth of field when you're looking up in the sky, but it did seem really, really high up. This phenomena. Now, it could be military aircraft. I don't think it was. I still have no explanation for that. But my problem was, after seeing this aerial phenomena, unidentified aerial phenomena, I could then not go back in and start talking about it to Nick Pope. It just seemed too obvious that I'd just seen a UFO and then I wasn't going to talk about UFOs. I think I did mention, I can't actually remember it, but I think I did mention it, but it just seemed too obvious. Still got no explanation for that. 5 very blue lights, very high in the sky, going high speed, so it didn't last that long. I think they were probably higher than 35,000 feet, but that's just a speculation. And it still baffles me to this day what that was. If anyone's had any similar things to that, would be good to know. But 5 blue lights, but as they passed overhead, they split apart. Still in formation, but split apart, and we're gone. Case number 2. I was in my garden having a cup of tea. It was night time, probably about the same time, about 8 o'clock. And it's amazing how things just catch your eye. I looked up in the sky and just saw this white ball of light. Once again, you can't tell how far it was away, just hovering and shimmering in the sky. And I was just captivated by it. This white, shimmering light. And I thought, it wasn't an aircraft because there was no sound. It wasn't a helicopter or anything like that. And as I say, I couldn't tell how far it was away. And it stood there for about, floating for about 5 minutes. I think it was about 5 minutes. This is about 2010, 2011, roughly. I can't remember exactly. And I was just perplexed. I was just staring at this white ball of light as it shimmered. And after the 5 minutes, this is the part that really shocked me, it zipped out of shot. It's really, really fast. No build-up, just gone. And disappeared. I find that one even more intriguing. So a sort of glimmering white light, and then out of sight. I mean, a lot of people see these UAPs quite a lot now. I'm fascinated by it. I don't speculate because I have no information. I don't like speculating too much. Well, I do a little bit, but I don't go down the alien route. it could very well be something beyond our consciousness, because they're seen quite often. Obviously, the US and British military are starting to or governments are starting to release unclassified documents of UFO sightings, and especially when you've got military people coming forward as well speaking about it. So yeah, I don't know what they were. They intrigued me. To this day, I'm always looking up in the sky to see if I can see something else. But thank you for just indulging me on that. So I've never really spoken about it before, for no particular reason, just haven't. And you know, if I'm in a conversation about UFOs or UAPs, then it will come out. But generally, I haven't really spoken about it. I haven't really thought about it for years. So yeah, there you go. Interesting. Hope you've enjoyed that. Thanks very much. Take care.
Hey Ryan, this is Dave from Omaha, Nebraska, and hello to all the Somewhere in the Skies listeners from across the world. Thanks for giving me a chance to share my story. This experience happened on May 19th of 2024. I was in Council Bluffs, Iowa, and just to give everybody a little bit of background, so in the Omaha metro area, there's about just over 1 million people that live here. Council Bluffs is considered to be part of the Omaha metro area. I grew up in this area in a town called Bellevue, Nebraska, and Bellevue is home to Offutt Air Force Base. Offutt Air Force Base is historically known for Strategic Air Command. It's currently called STRATCOM, but SAC's mission, known mission, when I was growing up, was basically control of the United States' nuclear arsenal. And so it's a very important base. And growing up in Bellevue, used to planes flying overhead pretty much all day, every day. And so I'm very, very familiar with what aircraft look like, sound like, how they move in the air, and kind of the general flight paths in the area. The Bellevue is where Offutt is on the southeast end of the Omaha metro area. Council Bluffs would be across the Missouri River. The Missouri River separates Nebraska and Iowa. Council Bluffs is just across the river, so on the east side of the metro area. And then there's another airfield, a regional airport called Epley Airfield, that's on the northeast side of the metro area. And so this incident took place in Council Bluffs, Iowa. I was leaving a memorial service for someone that reported to me at my job at that time. I was in middle management for a large insurance company in Omaha. There's a couple of them in town. If you wanted, I'm not going to name names, but I'm sure process of elimination, you could probably figure out which one it is. I have family that still work there, family and friends that still work there, so I'm not going to necessarily name names. But anyway, like I said, I was leaving memorial service for this person that reported to me that had recently lost their fight with cancer. And so it was a very emotional day for me, obviously, as emotional as, her family and their children and their spouse, but it was emotional for me because I had worked with this person for about a year, just under a year at that point, and for the previous couple months while they were battling cancer, I had been working with my direct manager and with our HR team to talk about next steps, and they were looking to terminate the person's employment before they passed away because their leave benefits were expiring, and that was something that I did not agree with. There's more circumstances behind that, and obviously a different perspective on the company's side, but I vehemently disagreed with how they were going about that, and I struggled with trying to be a good person and match my values to, how I was making a living. And when it was a very, very turbulent time for me personally. But I want to describe my mind state as I was leaving the service, just because, I've listening to your show, Ryan, and reading up on some other cases, there seems to be some correlation between heightened emotional states, crisis events, what have you, and some certain types of sightings. So I'm not sure if that ties in here, but it happened. I was very emotional and in a heightened emotional state that day, and I saw something that I couldn't explain. So I was leaving the service and heading back to my home. I live pretty much in the middle of the city of Omaha. Council Bluffs is to the east, so I'm driving west to get back to Omaha and get home. I'm pretty familiar with Council Bluffs. Growing up here, Council Bluffs has kind of a reputation around town for some spooky things that go on or have gone on over there in the past. And so, during Halloween season, as a teenager, me and my friends would go over to this park in Council Bluffs that was supposedly haunted and has a statue called the Angel of Death. We'd take our girlfriends over there and try to scare them and, do other things that teenagers do and whatnot. So I thought I was pretty familiar enough with Council Bluffs that I could make my way back home, find the interstate without having to use navigation. So I leave the funeral home, driving around for a couple minutes, and I wouldn't say I'm lost, but I'm meandering my way back home, and I lose patience at a certain point and decide to punch home back into my navigation. And so navigation takes me to an intersection, and this will come back up later, but the intersection was 25th and Nash in Council Bluffs to merge onto I-29 South to get back either to Interstate 480 or Interstate 80 West so I can get back home to Omaha. So as I'm merging onto the interstate, and first let me set the stage a little bit more. So spring in the Midwest, so it's like, average temperature, I want to say it was in the 70s, really nice outside. It was cloudy, overcast, but I don't think it had rained that day, so the clouds weren't like thick storm clouds, but it was cloudy enough to where the sun wasn't always out, but the sun would peek there every once in a while. It was a thin layer of clouds is the point. So as I'm verging onto the interstate, I'm looking over my left to try my left shoulder and out my driver's side, my front driver's side window to try to make sure there's no oncoming traffic and it's safe to merge. And as I look out the driver's side window, I notice in the top corner it just looks like, I don't know how else to describe it, but just like a ball of rust floating in the air. And there's no one else in the car with me. I went to the service by myself and came home by myself, but I remember saying out loud, "What the F is that? That shouldn't be there." Because it shouldn't be there. It was, I can't say exactly how big it was, but I know it was bigger than like a birthday balloon, but like smaller than a hot air balloon. And it was just kind of sitting there floating in the air. It wasn't moving or anything like that. There's not any like telephone poles or utility poles where I was that would have been at that height where, sometimes utility poles or utility power cables have those balls attached to them or whatever to keep, I think it's to keep the cable straight. There was nothing like that to the left where I was looking. And so I knew that's an object, that's something in the air that definitely shouldn't be there. Why is it there? I had to say this at the time, but these are all thoughts that I had after the fact. And Epley Airfield, that is, it's not an international airport. It's currently being converted to an international airport, but it's a decent sized regional airport. and this object would have been right in the flight path of planes approaching to land at the airport. And Offutt Air Force Base, that serves a key defense function, is 10-15 minutes down the road south. So, and they definitely don't want anything in the air that shouldn't be there, that could just potentially be a threat or disrupt, the air traffic or whatever, planes may be coming into land at the base or on missions or whatever. So it just kind of blew my mind. I was like, well, this doesn't make sense. Why is this thing just sitting, floating in the air? I'd estimate maybe it was, I'm not sure if I said this already, but I think it was about as high as what like a cell phone tower would be at the top, so maybe 200, 300 feet off the ground. And I couldn't have been there for more than 5 seconds, or at least when I noticed it first, it couldn't have been more than 5 or 10 seconds before, the thing just disappeared, vanished, disintegrated, whatever you want to call it. 1 second it was there, another second it wasn't. And like I wanted to describe the clouds that day, because the clouds weren't thick enough to where if something just kind of floated behind them, you wouldn't be able to see it. If it just kind of floated behind the clouds, I would have still been able to see like some sort of shadow behind this thin layer of clouds that day. And there was no puncture hole in the clouds, so like it clearly didn't rapidly rise up in the air. It didn't speed off in the distance. All of a sudden it was just there 1 second, and then the next second it wasn't. And it was just very weird. So it was about a 20-minute drive back home. I'm, trying to figure out what just happened. I'm dumbfounded, right? And get home, let my dog out, try to gather my thoughts. I text a friend of mine to let him know, what just happened. He's also kind of interested in the topic, and I tell him I either had a really vivid eye floater, or I saw something in the sky that I can't explain. And he replied back, "Do you usually have eye floaters?" I was like, "No, I don't." And he's like, "Well, there's your answer." And so, yeah, it was just strange and just something weird that I can't explain that I saw. And so some time goes by. I still think about it, but it's not like I'm obsessed or anything like that. I'm losing sleep or anything like that. And we get to Christmas morning. I had been watching this documentary. I watch it on my Apple TV app, but I think it actually comes on like MGM Plus or Amazon Plus, some subscription that I got a trial for, or that's included in whatever plan I have or whatever. But the documentary is called Beyond UFOs, and this was with episode 3. Gary Nolan was describing a case that he was tasked to investigate because there was an object that crashed at this park, Big Lake Park in Council Bluffs, Iowa in 1977, and he was tasked with looking into the metallurgy of some material that they recovered from this crash site. And I was like, whoa, I had never heard of this incident before. And what also struck me was the way, and it might be an innocent mistake, but Gary Nolan is a very, well-regarded person with a lot of credentials and whatnot. Obviously a very brilliant person, but how he described Council Bluffs was a small farming town in Iowa. And that caught me off guard because, it's not like a major metropolitan area. Omaha, the metro area in 1977, didn't have 1 million people that lived here. It was more like 500,000, but still, it's not Council Bluffs isn't a small farming town, and he also didn't provide any context about there being a decent-sized regional airport that would have been 5 minutes away from where this incident happened. Didn't make any mention of Council Bluffs being part of the Omaha metro area. Didn't make any mention of the fact that, a very critical Air Force base, critical to national security, was 10, 15 minutes down the road to the south. So that kind of got my antenna up a little bit, and got me thinking, about some other things that I've noticed, like about certain UFO celebrities, purveyors, whatever you want to call them, that want to be in the public eye, it seems like, and want their name out there more than what you do, which is sharing letting people share their stories and telling us about previous cases and what's going on in the news, that kind of thing. So really appreciate what you do, Ryan. But anyway, the reason I mentioned that last piece is because that is what seeing Gary Nolan mention the crash in 1977 in Council Bluffs had me kind of, I don't want to say connect the dots, but like, is there any connection between what I saw and what happened in 1977? Probably not, but it's weird that it happened in the same town. So I know I mentioned, Ryan, to you when I initially reached out that I was gonna kind of retrace my steps and to try to see if there's any other details that I remembered about my experience. So I decided to drive back over to Council Bluffs and, like I said, retrace my steps. And also, while I was over there, I might as well see what Big Lake Park is like. I'd never been to that particular park and never heard of that incident. So my navigation app took me to Big Lake Park, and lo and behold, it is very, very close to where I had my experience, where I saw what I saw. In fact, I got off on the same exit as I merged onto when I saw the object in May of 2024, 25th and Nash Boulevard. So this incident that I initially wasn't aware of from 1977 happened a stone's throw, 5 minutes maybe, away from where I had my experience, where I saw what I saw. And I just thought that was a strange coincidence. And he asked me to talk about how it made me feel. Like I said, it made me feel excited, confused. I wasn't afraid at all. I was just more excited, confused, maybe a little disappointed that my experience was like a ball of rust and not like a triangle or a saucer or one of the more traditional experiences you hear about. But maybe it's a good thing, because there's some unpleasant side effects that tend to go with seeing those kind of craft. Thank you so much for giving me the time or letting me share my story, and keep doing what you do. Thank you.
All right. The first sighting I ever had was when I was maybe 7, 8. I don't know. Somewhere along there. It was back when I lived in Kentucky, and it was the 4th of July. And I remember that everyone was rushing inside, because it was so late. Everyone was going to bed. And I was kind of the last one in, just kind of taking my time and admiring the stars in the sky. And I saw a white saucer. And it just kind of appeared and like you would see in the movies or something. Like, I don't know, it was crazy. But it was white, which is so weird. I don't even think I've ever seen a white one in the movies. But another time I was with with two of my friends. This was like back in high school. This was also in Kentucky, and we had gone to this location that was having like a fireworks show. They had like music and like food, and it was just all sorts of fun. People had their blankets out, and we were bored with it because we were younger and everyone else was like old and stuff. So we were bored, so we wandered off into the woods, and we look up and we see this triangular shaped metal object, and it was just kind of very slowly moving along, just like really, really slowly moving, almost as if you saw a cloud kind of just passing in the sky. And it had no lights on it. It was just like a very metallic gray color. And I remember it had like all these like intricate kind of designs to it. It was really bizarre, but after a few minutes it kind of just got lost in the clouds. Yeah, thinking back on that stuff is just kind of scary. My very last one is the one that I take the most serious because it was just so real and so shocking. It was this was also when I was young in high school. I was living at home, and I used to stay up really late, like any teenager. And I think I wanted to listen to a CD, or I needed a CD, but I had it outside in our shed because I had this old stereo out there that I would go listen to my tunes on because I could turn it up really loud. So I go get the CD, and as I'm coming back in, I look up in the sky, and there's this like a saucer shape, but like a little bit bigger, I guess, like more round than a saucer. It's hard to explain what I mean by that, but it was more of a classic spaceship look to it. And like all around the outside, there were lights, like blue and red lights. I think there was another color, but this wasn't 4th of July or anything, like wasn't near 4th of July, unrelated to the 4th of July. But I just remember those lights, they were so beautiful. And one key thing is that just like kind of like in the movies, like Fire in the Sky, for example, there was this beam of light that shined down from this craft. And I just kind of stood there for a second as I was walking back inside, and it just was just sitting there like in the sky for a few seconds, and it wasn't moving. And then it just it just disappeared. It was gone. It just kind of like something sucked it back up into the sky or something. That's the impression that I got. But anyway, talking about this stuff scares the crap out of me. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed hearing my stories. Bye.
Greetings everyone, Ryan Sprague here, host of Somewhere in the Skies. For over 7 years and more than 400 episodes, the Somewhere in the Skies podcast has always been free to listen to, but it's not free to create. So we offer several ways to help support our efforts and get rewards in return. If you listen to the podcast on Apple, you can click the subscribe button at the top of your Somewhere in the Skies feed to become a premium Apple subscriber. Or you can join our Patreon campaign with several tiers available. Both of these options give you the same benefits and rewards: ad-free episodes, early access to the main show, and bonus episodes and content. Help keep the lights on at the Somewhere in the Skies HQ, and help us continue to grow by becoming a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/somewhereskies, or by clicking the subscribe button at the top of your Apple feed. Thank you for your continued support, and keep looking up.
My name is Ben, and I wanted to tell my UFO story now. This was when I was really young, maybe 89, 90. I was just 8 or 9 years old, something like that, maybe younger. This was in grade school, so yeah. This was in Ohio. It was on the playground. I remember everybody was all the kids and teachers and stuff were looking up into the sky, and I looked up and I saw the silver metallic disc-shaped craft, and it was moving, and there's no sound to it. It looked like your classic, flying saucer type, craft. To me, it actually was almost in the, shape of, a football shape, that kind of shape. But it was like a flying disc type thing. And it was so strange. It was flying through the air and doing all these maneuvers and stuff, but then it just stopped, and I thought that was I felt really creeped out because it looked like it was just staring at us, all the kids and stuff looking at it. So it stopped for a really long time. I think it was the duration we were outside. We were out there. It was just up there, motionless. With no sound. I don't know what kind of craft could do that. Especially at that time, I don't think we had any kind of technology like that back then. It was definitely silvery metallic. The sun was shining off of it. You could see it really well. I mean, I know we got all these drones and stuff flying around now, but back then, I don't think so. Not like this. And this thing could do maneuvers you wouldn't believe. A drone definitely couldn't do anything like that. A plane or a helicopter couldn't do anything that this could do. It was flying at crazy speeds, and then it would just stop on a dime. What can do that? Nothing. Nothing can do that. I don't even think anything now can do what I saw this thing do. So, back then I used to see a lot of these UFOs, these silvery metallic UFOs. They all looked very similar. They're a disc-shaped, football-shaped craft. I've seen them zigzag across the sky and fly and maneuver at incredible speeds. Again, no sound. These were all in the daytime. It's just crazy. I've seen a bunch of them together, and then I've seen a single one. But sometimes I would see two in the same sky together, and they would be moving at crazy speeds, like a plane I just don't think could do. And then they would slow down, then they would stop on a dime, and just, planes obviously can't do that. A helicopter can, but these aren't helicopters. But these are cylinder or disc-shaped things. They're definitely circular. They weren't, shaped like any kind of a plane that we would have. I don't know. I know a lot of people have seen these. There's a bunch of videos on them as well. There's all kinds of pictures. I got my chance to see these darn things too. So I know they exist. I don't know what they are. It's so difficult for me to think that it would be something from us. So difficult the way it was. Is it aliens? I don't know. Is it something else? I don't know. All I know is what I saw and can share about the experience. It was definitely creepy. Like, I had a really creepy feeling whenever I saw them. I was creeped out. At the same time, I did think they were pretty cool looking too. That's definitely what started getting me to believing in aliens and all that stuff. But I don't know. Back in 89, 90, I don't know what we had. Anything. I don't know if we had anything that could do that. Could do like crazy maneuvers and then stop on a dime, and like, I would be more willing to think we had something like that now because it's so many years later, but back then I just don't see it. I don't see it. This was like years and years of technology ahead of what we had then. Now I know we have better technology, but I can't even see anything now being like that. But back then, it's like way, way less believable than it would be now. And as I said, this is Ohio, northern Ohio. So yeah, it's crazy. It's still crazy to me to this day what these mysterious craft that I saw. I saw some other strange things, like I've seen the black triangles. That was kind of crazy, but it's a little bit more believable that was something from us than these metallic craft were. But I have seen those like black triangles from back then. At least once. I saw one time at night. It was at night. And that was weird. That was a weird one too. I'm much more willing to believe that was something man-made than these silver metallic discs that were just like flying around like crazy, doing impossible maneuvers and stopping like they did. I remember they used to like kind of float around in the clouds like before accelerating. It's weird. I remember they used to like move. A lot of times they used to move like slowly, as I recall, because I used to watch them a lot. I used to see them a lot when I was young. This is, like I said, like early 90s. Really strange stuff. Alright, I'm just rambling on, so I'll stop.
Hey Ryan. Hello, greetings, Somewhere in the Skies listeners. Thank you for giving me the chance to put my story out there. My name is Marco Bisagno. I did some time in the Navy back in 1979, 1980. I work in IT and have for the last 30 plus years. I'm very observant. My wife calls me Hawkeye. I see things constantly. So, but not UFO things. I don't want you to think I'm wacky or anything like that. This was a one-time thing. Had to be around the year 2011. I was working different hours than what I was used to, and my schedule had kept changing every few months. Right now, at that point, my schedule had changed from 11 a.m. to 7:30 p.m., so I was done with work. My job was about 17 miles from my home. I was driving northbound on I-95 in Jupiter, Florida, when the sighting occurred. It was dark. It seemed much darker than usual. A lightning storm was brewing. I think the sky was black from clouds blocking all light, but I couldn't see them. There was, to my left, there was, which was west, there was spiderweb lightning, and it would just streak across the sky and light up everything. And then it would just wink out, and I was kind of mesmerized by that. And it would do it about every 15 seconds or so. So I was on the right-hand lane, and I was mesmerized by the display, only looking forward for a second to make sure I didn't crash. I felt time had stopped or slowed down, and I was somewhere in the middle between seconds. I know it sounds weird, but this was the feeling that I felt at the time. Usually I-95 is very busy. This night it was not. I was in the right-hand lane. I slowed down to a crawl. There was no other traffic, and that was really unusual. The lightning flashed again, and when it went black, a white ball was left. It looked like the size, about twice the size of a basketball from the distance, but it was pitch black. Distance was really hard to judge, and it streaked slowly across, I don't want to use the word streaked, it moved slowly across the sky, and it had like these tendrils of electricity coming off of it, and it just kind of moved across, and then all of a sudden it pulsed and it went out. And I thought to myself, was that a UFO? Then another lightning flash, and it made another spider web across the sky. Then another ball of light moved west-northwest for about 10 seconds. Then it was gone. Then it occurred to me that this was ball lightning, and I said, holy shit, wow. I know that this is rare, and I had not seen it before, and people talk about it, but they always say they hadn't seen it. So then the lightning flashed again, and this time it lasted, the ball came, and it lasted way longer. So it moved across the sky in the same direction. I watched it intently. I don't know if I was still driving, but I kept questioning my judgment and thinking, is this ball lightning or a UFO? So as it moved through, a thought came to my mind, like my brain was saying, keep watching. And obviously, I was going to keep watching because I'm watching this thing that I've never seen before. I was amazed and mesmerized by the ball lightning, knowing that it was rare, and I have just seen 3, which was awesome to me. Time stretched. It felt like many minutes passing, though I was driving, I think. I may have stopped. I'm not sure of this. So many things were going through my head at the time, and I was certainly not thinking of grabbing my phone and taking a picture. The ball lightning winked out. It traveled a long way, much farther this time. The lightning flashes again, and I'm looking at it. In the middle is this thing. I for sure don't want to say it's a UFO, even though in my mind I know that's what it was. It was big, like maybe, 50 feet long and maybe 20 or 25, 30 feet wide, but it looked like a big 55-gallon drum that was slightly wider at the top and slightly pinched in about a quarter of the way from the center of it down. So it almost looked like a snow cone, but not. It didn't come to a point or anything like that. So it was shaped. The shape was kind of weird. It didn't have any lights or no control surfaces. And I could see all this in the few seconds that I was able to see it while the lightning was going. And I could see that it was in front of the lightning, not behind it, because it blotted out part of the lightning. And the sky went black, and I was saying to myself, holy shit, did I just see what I saw? And then the lightning flashes again, and I'm still looking at it, and I had about 5 or 8 seconds to scour the area for it, and I looked from side to side all over, but nothing. It was clearly gone, or moved to a location where it was against the black sky. I'm thinking the whole experience may have taken many seconds. I think I was stopped on the shoulder at some point during this. I was very excited by this time and couldn't wait to get home to tell my wife. Okay, let me back up here a second. How did it make me feel? I've been haunted by this vision. I relive it every day of my life. I drive past it every day. That spot. It consumes me, yet I want nothing from it except to understand what I saw. I would like someone to tell me if this or something very similar has been seen before. I have scoured the internet to see if I could find a similar drawing, picture, or description, but have found nothing. I need someone who is in the know, like you, Ryan, to tell me that I am not crazy. I have a similar picture I created in the document that I wrote up, so that, you know, if you wanted to, you could see what I'm talking about. It's a rough version. I'm really an observant person. It's in my nature. I don't embellish or lie, so this is my best recollection to the events. I posted a story on SETI, however, I have not heard back from them. So, a little on my personal history. As a child, I had a reoccurring dream. I would see lights outside my bedroom window and knew it to be a craft of some kind. Now, when I say I was a child, we're talking about 60 years ago. I was terrified and never wanted to go to sleep knowing I was going to be taken. I am 65 years old, and I think maybe 8 years old when this occurred. At the time, I was sheltered and had no reference to flying saucers or aliens. I had no history that could have been corrupted in my mind and made me believe at the time that spaceships and aliens were real. This thing that I saw had no lights, no control surfaces. Not sure what it was. It was just hanging there like a Christmas ball. And I hope somebody can come back and say, hey, we've seen the exact same thing. Thank you for your time. Thanks for listening to my long, convoluted story. Have a great day, guys. Thanks. Bye.
If you would like to share your UFO story, reach out to Ryan on social media or use the email address in the show notes to discuss further. Please take a moment to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It truly makes a difference and helps the show tremendously. You can follow us on Blue Sky, X, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search for Somewhere in the Skies podcast.